Daf Yomi Tractate Bava Metzia, page 77b, part 2, with the words Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer. It is further stated in the Braita that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, we teach them not to renege. How so? He writes for him, I, so-and-so, son of so-and-so, sold such and such a field to so-and-so for 1,000 dinars. And of them he gave me 200 dinars. And therefore, now he owes me 800 dinars. This affects acquisition of the field for the buyer immediately. The Gemara asks, the reason they cannot renege is that the seller wrote this for the buyer in the contract, evidently. If not for this being specified in a document, the buyer does not acquire the field immediately. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in a Braita with regard to one who gives a down payment to another and says to him, if I renege, my down payment is forfeited to you, and the other person says to him, if I renege, I will double your down payment for you. The conditions are in effect. In other words, the court will enforce the conditions stipulated between them in this contract. This is the statement of Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara comments, Rabbi Yossi conforms to his standard line of reasoning, as he says, a transaction with inconclusive consent affects acquisition. Even though it is a commitment that he undertook based on his certainty that he would never be forced to fulfill the condition, it is considered a full-fledged commitment. The Gemara continues its discussion of the Braita. Rabbi Yehuda says it is sufficient that the down payment affects acquisition of merchandise commensurate with the amount of his down payment. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said, in what case is this statement said? It is when the buyer said to the seller, my down payment will affect acquisition of the merchandise. But if one sold another field for 1,000 dinars, and the buyer paid him 500 dinars of that sum, he has acquired the entire field, and he returns the rest of the money to the seller even after several years have passed. Evidently, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel maintains that even if they do not have an explicit contract, the buyer's first payment finalizes the sale, rendering the remaining payment a standard loan. If so, why does the previous Braita state that Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel holds that this contract must be in writing? The Gemara responds, this is not difficult. This ruling that the down payment serves to effect acquisition only if they specified in writing that the remaining payment would be considered a loan is stated with regard to a case where the seller goes in and goes out for money. In other words, demonstrates that he is in need of cash. Therefore, unless the acquisition was stated in writing, the buyer acquires the entire field only when he pays the entire sum. That ruling, that the down payment affects full acquisition, regardless of whether or not it is written in a contract, is stated with regard to a case where he does not go in and out for money. This is, as Rava says, with regard to one who sells an item to another and then goes in and goes out for money. The buyer has not acquired it, as it is clear that the seller sold it only because he needed the money immediately. Since the seller did not receive the money he wanted right away, the transaction is null. If he does not go in and go out for money, the buyer has acquired it, and the rest of the payment is considered like a loan that must be repaid in the future. And Rava says, with regard to one who lent 100 dinars to another, and the borrower paid it back 1 dinar at a time, this is a valid repayment. But the lender has grounds for a grievance against him for repaying him in this manner, as he can say to him, "You have caused me to lose out," as it is easier to use a lump sum than a few coins at a time. The Gemara relates there was a certain man who sold his donkey to another at 1 dinar, and 1 dinar was still owed to him. And the seller went in and went out went out for his dinar. Rav Ashi sat and examined the situation, asking, in a case like this, what is the halacha? Has he acquired the donkey, or has he not acquired it? Rav Mordechai said to Rav Ashi, This is what Avimi of Hagronia Wow, not such a common name. Avimi Mehagronia. Avimi of Hagronia said in the name of Rava, 1 dinar is considered to be like multiple dinars, and therefore he has not acquired it. Rav Acha, the son of Yosef, said to Rav Ashi, but we say in the name of Rava that in this case he has acquired it. Rav Ashi said to him, in resolution of the apparent contradiction between the two versions of Rava's ruling, interpret your halacha with regard to one who sells his field. I don't understand that at all, because Kenyans are made not with money, they're made with pulling, or chazaka, or mashicha. Money is not the only way to make a Kenyan, so I don't get that one. Anyway, okay.